I've spent the last 12 months reading books on money, business, and communication with the intent of improving the chances of financial success in my life. In this video, I'm going to break down some of the key learnings from these books. Some of them you may already know, with some that are surprising to have read, and some that will probably contradict what a lot of people have told you in the past. So let's start with a very popular book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. In the book, Robert talks about how he's got a rich dad and how he's got a poor dad. Robert's poor dad is somebody that's a high income earner. He's got a nice big house, looks after his family. However, at the same time, he's pretty much living paycheck to paycheck. Whereas on the other hand, Robert's rich dad is somebody that has a lot of assets, doesn't have very many liabilities, has multiple businesses that are kind of pulling this money together. And this is somebody that Robert is really kind of looking up to and trying to get some financial advice from. In the book, Robert talks about it's not how much money you earn, but how much money you can keep. In the real world, what we see is that a lot of people are really focused on their income and earning as much money as possible, whereas the rich understand that the only way to become rich is actually focus on how much money you keep and how many assets you've got. He also talks about how the rich don't work for money. They make their money work for them. So Robert talks about putting every single dollar or every single pound that you make to work for you. You don't want to be putting this pound or this dollar on something that's not going to make you any money. The idea here is really making sure that every single pound is an employee for you in your business in the future. So if you're investing a pound and it's getting a 10% return, it's better to have that 10p than it is to waste that pound over the long run. He also talks about how you can be extra tax efficient by owning limited companies and corporations rather than if you were just a high income earner. And really this is once again down to the fact that his rich dad had multiple businesses and was very tax efficient with the money that he was using, whether that's write-offs, etc., that you can use essentially to make sure that you're not spending your earned income and stuff. You want to be using that money that your businesses or your assets are making that you can go out and use to put towards your lifestyle. He also talks about in the book working to learn rather than working to earn. Now this kind of really resonated with me because at the first couple of years of my job, I wasn't earning a lot of money, but the overall intent, obviously with a lot of people, is to earn as much money as they possibly can. Now for me, there's a lot of people in my work and in my kind of line of work that do make a lot of money. So for the first couple of years, it really was just, I was in there to learn as much as possible, almost shadow those people that were doing very successful in my job and just try and pick up on a few things that they were doing. So for me, you've got to understand that a lot of times when you are working, take that job as a learning curve. It's, you're taking that job essentially to make sure that in the future you've set yourself up, whether that's sales skills for me within my job, whether it's communication, whether you're an accountant and you can understand how to balance books later for the line when you start your own business, things like that you can really start to use to project your way forward and have that essentially that unfair advantage on anybody else in your field that is in your position. I definitely recommend this as a good starter book though for anybody that is out there, way to I think understand and start having a better idea about money and assets and liabilities. So the next book that we've got here is one by Napoleon Hill. It's called Think and Grow Rich. Now I think for a lot of people when starting out, it's really good to try and have a little bit of psychology about money and understand that it's not essentially just about, okay, I'm going to go out and start lots of different things. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. You kind of need to be a little bit more psychologically adept to understand what you need to be doing with your money. So this book isn't necessarily like a roadmap or like a step-by-step guide of like, okay, if you do this and then do this and do this, you're going to be a millionaire. The idea behind this book is to really try and get your mind in the right place to start thinking about money in the correct way. One of the big things about this book is that you need to really understand that in life there isn't a scarcity of resource and money. A lot of people will probably tell you that there are, and a lot of these people at the same time are probably on lower to middle income earners. And I think the people that believe there is a scarcity of money and resource in the world are probably those that don't take full advantage of it. Whereas those that believe there is abundance of resource, abundance of money in the world, those are the ones that can really start to understand, okay, there is a lot of money out there to be made. And it's my turn to kind of take a little piece from that pie really, whether that is tens of millions, millions, hundreds of thousands, whatever it may be. I think for a lot of people, it's really understanding that there is a lot of people out there that actually earn a ridiculous amount of money. And it's almost just having that shift in mindset, really. Once again, in this book, Napoleon talks about actually having the right mindset for action. And I think, again, for a lot of people, this is where people will fall short. I'll reference this kind of later in the book as well. But essentially, a lot of people fall short at the point of action. So they'll have a great business idea, they'll have a great business plan, they'll have a great investment idea, investment plan, whatever it may be. They'll map it out, They'll do lots of different things. They'll kind of put all these plans and processes in place, but they don't actually take the action. And imperfect action is better than perfect non-action. And I think you can spend 20 years putting the perfect plan in place to actually go and do something, but if you look back at somebody didn't take the first most perfect step forward 20 years ago, but there'll now be leaps and bounds further past you and wherever you may be taking that first perfect step. So just looking back to that, there was a chapter in the book purely around procrastination, and I think they'd interviewed about 25,000 men and women that had failed in their career, within a business plan, or deemed themselves to be a bit of a failure. And when they spoke to those 25,000 people, they harked back to the reason why none of them were as successful as they wanted to be was because they didn't take action, and that was their own personal reflection. If you don't do anything about it, you're not going to be any different compared to where you were the last year or the previous 10 years. So that's why I think that book is quite a good read, just to kind of really get you in that mindset shift. Third book on this list is Richest Man in Babylon by George R.S. Carlson. So this book will probably solidify a lot of what the aforementioned books have gone through, just purely around how to actually make money, invest in things that you really understand, and don't give money to someone or something that you have no idea as to what it may be, basically. So in the book, there's 5 kind of key takeaways or 5 key lessons for money, and I suppose in their terms, gold at the time. So the first rule is putting some money aside every single month. This was one of the first lessons in the book, for the idea that you're going to invest that money, you don't touch it, it stays in a little pot, and it just keeps growing and getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And I've mentioned obviously this in previous videos, and you'll probably see it everywhere if you're kind of really interested in finance. It's just compound interest. If you put £10 into something, you get 10% return. That means year 2 you've got £11, and so on and so forth. And as that keeps growing 10%, and you keep putting an extra pound into it every single month, you're going to see your money exponentially grow and grow and grow. And after 30 years, you're going to have a lot more money than you would have done in there if you'd have just left it in the bank. That kind of leads on to number 2, the kind of rules or the laws that they've got. Money will work for its owner who finds it profitable employment. So that, as I say, just putting your money into something that you know is going to grow, whether it's a business, reinvesting your money back into your business that you've got, reinvesting your money into education, it can grow your mindset, whether it's putting that money just simply in an investment account and watching that grow over time as well. You've got to make your money work for you. Number 3, money clings to the cautious owner. So you've got to be careful, as I say, when you're investing in things. Don't put it in things that you don't know. I've been burnt in the past. I'm sure a lot of you have been burnt in the past, where you've put money into something, you've realised when you actually look back at it, that's a terrible idea. You had no idea what was going on. You didn't really know how to make your money from it. It was all a bit of potluck, really. So don't put your money in things you don't understand. Which then slips onto number 4, which was the exact same thing. Money falls away or slips from those who invest it in things they do not understand. As I say, please don't do that. And then number 5, gold or money flees from those who expect impossible earnings. So in the book, they reference gambling, and there's a lot of people that are losing money from gambling. I'm one of these people. I'll happily have a bit of a flutter here and there on, whatever it may be, but I'm not religiously putting money every single month into gambling or betting or things like that. I think it's only going to go one way. And then a final pointer again, is that book harks back to action. There's a nice little quote in there that goes along the lines of, men of action are favoured most by the goddess of luck. Obviously that could be women as well, but just wanted to put that in there because I think it's definitely something where the more action you take, the more calculated action that you take, the more likely you are to stumble across luck, make a lot of money, have the kind of success that you're after than you would be if you took no action at all. Number 4 is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. So I found this book quite good because in my line of work, it's a lot of sales related things. I think even purely in business as well, it's quite good to have better negotiation skills, whether you're buying houses and you're putting offers in on houses, whatever it may be in life. I think there's always good asset essentially to be able to negotiate. So where I've used this as well is basically through buying houses. I remember it says in the book, a good thing to use is like an obscure number. So I remember putting an offer on a house before it got accepted, essentially with quite an obscure number. So rather than putting in something along the lines of £110,000, I think it was 109,857. And I think the main thing that Chris mentioned in the book is not to put the obscure number of like 109,850. You want the last number to be quite an obscure number. And the reason for this is people think psychologically that you've come to that number and that's kind of a calculated number, rather than you've just took a stab in the dark, you're trying to lowball somebody, take £500 off of it because you think, oh, it'd be better to have £500. If you've come with a specific number, people will think essentially there's a big reason behind that for that exact number. I remember when I did this, I got the offer accepted, even though it was a bit of a low ball, and I'd only actually increased my offer by about £30 or £40. But for the people on the other end, it's like, okay, well, he's obviously reached his very, very limit. He's put his calculations in, he's put his renovation costs in, he's put this in, put that in. And then he's come to this very specific number. So he obviously cannot go any more than that. So I think it's quite good to have that bit of an idea in mind when you do go through negotiations, even if it's increasing your salary at work. You obviously, the whole idea right now is that everybody wants to be earning as much money as they possibly can, financial crisis and all that stuff. So if you go into your boss and saying, hey, I understand that this is what I want to be producing, and I've come to this obscure number here, obviously you won't tell them, but you've come to this number of, like, instead of £50,000, I'm going to need £52,387 because of my living expenses are this, my rent's this, my this is this, my this is this, and this is what I think I am worth. And then the fifth and final book that we're going to run through is How to Make Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is a very good book, purely if you want to get into leadership and influencing other people and their actions. In business and life, you're not going to be able to do everything that you want to do on your own or by yourself. A lot of the time you will have to lean on other people, you'll have to employ other people, you'll have to recruit other people, you'll have to bring other people, whether it's freelancers or you're out offshoring work to people overseas, whatever it may be, you're going to have to work with other people. You're never really going to be able to do anything completely on your own. Now, for my job and kind of my situation working in recruitment, I sit on the sales side of the business and I have to work day in and day out with a delivery side. So those are the people that are going into market, finding the candidates, finding the right people for the positions and the jobs that I've got. Now, for me, working with those people and influencing them is something you would do on a regular and daily basis. You've got to make sure that you keep them on side. Dale in the book mentions things as simple as just pure encouragement, saying really well done, great profile, just to purely encourage somebody, actually engage them and make them want to work with you or for you. Another thing is giving somebody a positive reputation to live up to. So if you go, hey, David, I know you've been finding amazing people and you're probably the best person in your team to find this, they're automatically going to think, oh, I am the best person in the team to do this. And they're probably going to put a little bit more effort in just to kind of live up to that specific title that you've given them. This could be for anybody within any kind of line of work. If somebody's the best window cleaner, it's just referencing that. They're probably going to do you a better job than if you didn't mention anything, or they're going to try and live up to that reputation that you've given them. And the final key takeaway that Dale mentions, purely around kind of building people up, which is my main takeaway from that book, is praising even though it's a very small or marginal piece of improvement. So somebody could do something 1% better and it's actually praising them just on that 1%, because the more you can do that, the better you're able to kind of build that person up and kind of get them to the level where you want them to be, rather than what you'll see a lot of the time in the corporate world, which is where people just cut everybody down as quickly or as often as they possibly can with any kind of mistake that it is that they may do. So how do you actually use these books to make you more money? So the number one thing that I've took away from all these books realistically is action. You've got to take action to actually get to the place where you want to be. I've learned over the last 7 years of growing and trying to essentially become a millionaire and be as rich as I possibly can, that I've not really grown anywhere near as quickly as I thought I was going to be, or had any of the success that I thought I was going to have by this particular point in life at 25. I thought by now I'd be a multi-millionaire living on a yacht. I've not had the growth that I thought I was going to have. And the reason why is action. I've had a lot of ideas in the past. I've had a lot of kind of dreams of becoming rich. I've visualized things, kind of put, a bit of a plan in place, written down my 2024 goals. The same point on a lot of these ideas is I've not took action. Somebody you may be familiar with or may not be, but a guy called Alex Hormozy. And one of the quotes that really resonated with me from him was the fact that he said, every year that you don't know how to make $1 million or make £1 million, that is costing you £1 million. So every year that you don't make $1 million or don't know how to make $1 million, it's costing you £1 million. So it's just something as simple as that, where it's like, if I don't know how to do that, every single year that I'm doing that, I'm losing out £1 million. If I can't make £1 million a year, but I'm making 50,000, I'm £950,000 down every single year. So it's like, you really need to try and understand that for a lot of the times, just take action, try and start to learn how to get to that level A lot of people have done that in the past. A lot of people have made £1 million in a year. So the fact that I can't, the fact that probably a lot of people out there can't, it's simply down to ignorance. It's ignorance debt is what Alex calls it. So it's like, I don't know how to do it. I've not yet done anything about it. So there I am. It's costing me £950,000 a year, essentially, if you earn 50 grand. And another thing as well, for those that don't want to take massive action, you're not trying to earn £1 million a year. You just want to be able to retire in the future with a good or big nest egg, or you want to be able to live your life a little bit more freely when you're 40 or when you're 50 years old. The other thing about it is taking action once again, but in a more prolonged and kind of consistent way over long term, as Warren Buffett will probably say. You know, investing over the long term doesn't really require like any specialist knowledge. It's more around pure being in charge of your emotions, consistency, and then rational decision making. So at the same time, if you are investing over the long run in an index fund, do it consistently. Get a hold of your emotions. If things start to go down a little bit, don't panic, don't sell out, don't do whatever. Just keep in there, keep investing the same amount of money. As long as you know it's a good investment and it's something where it's proven to grow for the X amount of years, just keep investing in it, keep putting a little bit of money into it, and just keep watching it grow and be sensible with your decision making. Don't all of a sudden take your £15,000 out of the S&P 500 and dump it into one single stock because you've heard from somebody that it's a great idea. Listen back to what we've learned from some of those books in the past, where it's like, if you don't understand, don't invest. So for me this year, 2024, is all about taking action. I've coined this the year of action for me. This is the same within YouTube. This is the same within buying houses, more action at work. I'm trying to put 2024 down as the year of action for me. I hope that's give you a good overview of some of the books that I've been reading over the past, 6 months or so. Hopefully, as I start to kind of build my knowledge a little bit more, read some new books, I'll kind of repeat maybe one of these videos later down the line with just some new learnings or some key understandings at least anyway. But it's a bit of an overview of some of the books I've been reading so far.